Washington, D.C. The courtroom was packed. Cameras were rolling. The air was thick with tension. But no one, not the press, not the bailiffs, not even Karoline Leavitt herself expected what happened next. In an explosive, unprecedented courtroom moment, Federal Judge Morton Callahan ordered Karoline Leavitt to stand, then stunning everyone, demanded that her head be shaved right there, in open court. The reason? A violation of protocol. Judge Callahan, known for his no-nonsense attitude and controversial rulings, claimed Leavitt's defiance during her testimony violated court protocol. He cited disrespectful demeanor and weaponized political posturing. "If you want to play games in my courtroom," the judge barked, "then you'll leave this chamber humbled." Without warning, he called for security and a court officer emerged with electric clippers. Gasps, screams. Reporters dropped their pens. And within minutes, Karoline's long locks were gone, buzzed off under blinding lights and international scrutiny. The clip went viral in minutes. Social media lit up like a forest fire. Did this really just happen? This judge just declared war on the First Amendment. This is courtroom assault. Millions watched as the footage was replayed on every major outlet. Hashtags like "shaved for speaking" and "justice gone too far" began trending worldwide. But Karoline Leavitt wasn't broken. She was reborn. The next morning, shaven head gleaming, jaw-locked, Karoline Leavitt stepped out of her car on Capitol Hill. And she didn't come quietly. "I was humiliated on national television. But I will not be silenced. I'm not here to play dress-up for corrupt judges. I'm here to expose them." She immediately filed a $50 million federal lawsuit against Judge Callahan for abuse of power, unlawful punishment, and psychological assault. But that was just step one. Revenge mode activated. Step 1. Congressional oversight. Within 48 hours, Karoline leveraged her network and demanded an emergency judiciary oversight hearing. Lawmakers across party lines were forced to acknowledge, whether you agree with her politics or not, what happened was an abuse of judicial authority. The committee opened an inquiry into Callahan's conduct. Step 2. Whistleblower unleashed. Karoline's legal team unearthed a former court clerk who had damning emails proof that Judge Callahan had planned a public reprimand spectacle days before the hearing. It wasn't justice, it was a setup. That was the crack in the dam. Step 3. Public reversal. The backlash was too great. Protesters rallied outside the courthouse. Major legal scholars and former judges condemned Callahan's actions. The federal court issued a rare statement. This court deeply regrets the incident and will cooperate fully with the investigation. Callahan was put on administrative leave pending review. Karoline's redemption arc, from humiliation to hero. Weeks later, Karoline walked into a press conference with her head still buzzed and a silver razor pendant hanging from her necklace. "They thought shaving my head would break me. All it did was sharpen me." She announced the formation of a legal defense fund for others mistreated in the judicial system and launched a new movement, Reform the Rope. The lesson: power can cut you down, but it can't silence you. What happened to Karoline Leavitt was cruel, unjust, and shockingly public. But she showed something bigger than defiance. She showed resilience. True power doesn't come from the bench. It comes from standing back up even when someone tries to strip you bare. This wasn't just revenge. It was reform. And it started with clippers. The fall of Judge Callahan. Karoline's reckoning. The judiciary hadn't seen a scandal this hot since the impeachment of a federal judge in 1989. But this was different. Because Karoline Leavitt wasn't going away. She wasn't settling. And she wasn't just aiming to remove a judge, she wanted to reset the system. The Senate hearing that stopped the nation. Under flashing lights and wall-to-wall cameras, Karoline sat in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee, bald head uncovered, voice unwavering. "I was violated. Not just as a woman, not just as a citizen, but as someone who dared to speak the truth." The senators were stunned. Even some of her political opponents crossed party lines to support her. That hearing went viral too. People weren't just watching, they were rallying behind her. A bombshell amendment proposal. In a bold move, Karoline unveiled the Leavitt Amendment, a proposal to add strict psychological evaluations, public oversight, and mandatory term limits to federal judicial appointments. No one man should hold unchecked power for a lifetime. Her amendment caught fire, sparking a wave of public support unseen since the Patriot Act, only this time, it was about protecting citizens from the system, not expanding it. Hidden files, secret dealings, and a judge on the run. During the discovery phase of her civil suit, Karoline's lawyers uncovered something chilling, sealed court memos that suggested Callahan had a long history of unusual punishments, a back-channel email thread between him and 2 defense contractors, a bank account in the Cayman Islands tied to undisclosed court donations. Suddenly, the story morphed from viral moment to criminal conspiracy. The FBI raided Judge Callahan's vacation home in Martha's Vineyard. He wasn't there. A week later, he was caught trying to board a private jet under a fake name. He was arrested in front of 42 stunned passengers. The verdict? Guilty. In a blistering court decision, Callahan was found guilty of abuse of judicial power, criminal conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and unlawful detainment of a U.S. citizen. He was stripped of his title, his pension, and his freedom. And Karoline? With her head still shaved in solidarity, she stood outside the courthouse where it all began. This time, she had the microphone. This wasn't about hair. This was about humiliation, and I turned it into hope. For every person who's ever been silenced, for every whistleblower, every protester, every truth-teller. The legacy begins. Reform Thoroughb goes global. Karoline's movement didn't stop at U.S. borders. In countries from Canada to Brazil, activists began using her story to challenge outdated legal systems. Hollywood even came calling a film deal, a best-selling memoir, and a Netflix series titled The Gavel and the Razor, the Karoline Leavitt story. FINALASSON turned shame into strength. What was meant to destroy Karoline became the sharpening of her sword. Her shame became a symbol. Her silence became a megaphone. They took my hair, she said, but I kept my spine. In a world where power often goes unchecked, and where systems can feel too big to challenge, Karoline Leavitt proved one simple truth: dignity isn't something anyone can take from you unless you let them. She walked into that courtroom expecting justice, and instead faced humiliation. But she walked out with something far greater, a purpose. What started as a televised act of cruelty became a catalyst for reform. What was meant to break her ended up igniting millions. The lesson? Don't let the moment define you. You define the moment. When you're embarrassed, stand taller. When you're silenced, speak louder. When they try to cut you down, use the pieces to build something stronger. Karoline's story isn't just about revenge.It's about resilience.It's about turning pain into power. And it's about remembering that no matter how dark the courtroom gets, the truth still shines under the lights.So when they tell you, sit down. When they say, it's over. Look them in the eye and say, no. This is where it begins.